Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel, The Wisdom Jacob's Ladder. For those of you who have been here before, we love having you back on. For those of you who are new here, please make sure to subscribe to my channel so you can get notifications and click that bell icon so that you can be notified on YouTube. And we love having you a part of our community here on The Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. Next week, we will be bringing on my dear friend Elizabeth Boisson, who spearheaded a wonderful organization called Helping Parents Heal. And Elizabeth is just the perfect beacon of light to be my very first ever guest interview that I've ever done. And you really do not want to miss this because she is someone who personifies all things that are about the wisdom of Jacob's Ladder and a great segue for today's topic. A couple days ago, recently, I was doing a wonderful workshop out at the Holistic Center for Soulful Living in Smithtown, New York. It's a wonderful place that I've been presenting at throughout the years. And I was doing a workshop with my wonderful colleague, Shelby May. We were doing the Afterlife Symposium and just giving different perspectives and angles on cultivating the hereafter and the here now from perspectives of a near-death experiencer as well as those from an evidential, incredible medium. And the night was just so uplifting and healing, and everyone walked out of there with something, including me. Why I say this is, when I was presenting, someone in the crowd asked a question that I'm posed many times, but it just was worded in a way that just, really hit my heart a lot harder this time and with a lot more force and beauty. And this question is, do we all have a purpose? Why am I here? What's my purpose? You see, you've had a near-death experience. It may be easy for you to talk about your purpose. You have a knowing and you're writing books and doing all these things. How will I know my purpose? What realization will I have? And just the way that it was worded and from the place that it came from was just such a pure, beautiful place. And of course, Shelby was able to answer the question with her own beautiful, unique way and given from her platform as a medium. But for myself, I had to kind of dig deep within. You see, in our society, many times we're driven to the notion that in order to have this sense of purpose, we need to just be something great or do something great, that we aren't great enough as is, that there's not something beautiful within us already. And so when it comes to purpose, many times people will feel very depleted if they just don't have this great influence on others, or this great platform, or all these other different things. They're all just elements of the ego and, and constructs. And to me, purpose is really about remembering who you are, the beautiful light within, and how you already are all that you are seeking, that you don't have to do something in order to be something. You simply need to remember. Now, there's many ways that people come to really find their sense of purpose. I know for myself, having a near-death experience gave me a sense of degree of euphoria, but also a lot of complexity, as I had mine at such a young age. And so there was a lot of double-edged sword phenomenon, where yes, it was beautiful and inspiring, but yes, also, it was difficult to now relearn how to be a kid and just all the trauma that I experienced through suffocation, and it was hard. So I've said in other videos, and I want to reiterate, that one level of understanding purpose is to really find ways to work through and make friends and embrace a pain, a difficult part of your life, something that is just pressing you. And if you're able to really work through that, like I did, through many years and talking to therapists and friends and family with not just the NDE but other stuff, you'll understand the notion that there's a greater meaning behind all things, including the things that press us the most or challenge us the most. In other words, you'll understand that life is not happening to me. Bad things aren't happening to me. But there's a greater intelligence and a reasoning life is happening for me, that there's a greater meaning and purpose behind all these things that happen to us, and there's a divine reason for it. And when you think that life is just all about yourself, it could be very deflating, because when bad things happen, it's just, oh my God, what's next? And this is horrible, awful, terrible, and what will I do? And that pain is very real. But here on our channel, it's about acknowledging the pain, not ignoring it, but finding ways to generate the hope, the inspiration, and the change to shift, become a miracle from something that is filled with sadness, agony, anxiety, whatever that is, into a sense of meaning and purpose and expansion. And I think anyone who has found part of their purpose has been able to transcend their own pain into purpose. You look at the Buddha, for instance. He had a beautiful life laid out for him. Wife, kids, was living in a palace, had all the material boxes checked off. And yet it led to a bit of a midlife crisis. He was doing everything that you were supposed to. You had everything on that list, and yet it wasn't enough. And that bit of pain led him to really try to shift and to refocus and nurture something else that was missing. And he was able to, as a prophecy would say, he was going to be someone with a lot of influence over others and stuff like that, either as kind of like a ruler or as a leader, as a healer, as a teacher. And he chose to have more of a spiritual revolution versus, one of material success and power over others, stuff like that he was destined to have. We're talking about Siddhartha. And once he was able to really transcend this, he was able to find this notion that a lot of great spiritual teachers and leaders find, is that essence, that call to action, that void is a voice to listen to, and that the palace is not on the outside, but this great realization is within ourselves. It was always within ourselves. That we, in our purest form, are perfect just as we are. We don't need all these things, but these could certainly enhance our experience, but they don't have to define us. And it's living life from a place of the inside out, from a place of beauty, versus external dependency to determine our inner reality. And that leads to a lot of distress and discord and just agony. Life will become more of yours when you connect and you shift the position that you're looking at life. I think what's important, really, when it comes back to purpose, is to finding ways to kind of learn, what have I struggled with? What has been difficult? And why am I going through this? What's the reason behind it? Is it just about me, or maybe it's about someone else that I could relate to? Now, you don't have to write books or be a therapist to be a healer. You could do it by just being you. And I don't know about you, but I've found that sometimes when I have an experience, I recognize that down the road I'm able to really relate to someone differently who has maybe had that same experience. All things and the road bumps that we go through are there to understand people who are maybe a couple exits of where we were. And we could be able to relate to them and open up that heart space to really have symmetry. To me, that is a great deal of purpose. But you look at, for instance, Eckhart Tolle or Neil Donald Walsh, great beings of inspiration and insights and great luminaries here, planet. But they came from a place of losing. Sometimes in order to find yourself, there's a sense of loss of everything. In other words, in order to find yourself, you have to be willing to lose the ego and all those things that make you you. And that's what happened to Eckhart and Neil, just a place of despair and surrendering. In other words, what does it take to make this work? It's not working now, and what does it take to make this work? And from that place of pain, they're able to let it go into surrender, to a greater insight, not flowing from them, but flowing through them. But purpose doesn't have to just be pathologized. It can be given in pain. And even in pain, we could find a sense of call to action that we could use our pain to help out to others. But it could be about other things. Before I get there, today is actually my own father's birthday that I'm pre-recording. And I'll give him as an example. He's been a successful psychotherapist for several decades and is very humble about it. Doesn't like the limelight or just kind of does his thing, but he has helped out thousands of lives. But when he was younger growing up, he bounced from town to town. He didn't have a sense of community. There wasn't any structure. And so for him, that was, maybe a source of pain. But he was able to devote his life to developing community and developing a sense of unity of community. And he's since devoted his life to those who have developmental disabilities, those who might be in the autism spectrum and struggling with various different mental health conditions. And his goal was really to create people to find themselves in this world. And so he would start programs that I volunteered on from a very young age for kids on the spectrum. To just every Sunday we would have something called the Sunday programs that he would really spearhead. And this would be for children who didn't have maybe friends to go to see on that Sunday. They weren't so a part of the community. And for a couple hours every Sunday morning we would have different activities such as bowling and sports and music and all these kind of things. We had trips, and it was a part of understanding that for a community to be whole, every single person had to be a part of it. That's what makes a community. It's not something for many and left out for the few. That each person has to have a part of it. And that's the way that I see the world, that we all have a role to it. We have to find a ways for everyone to connect to their light, to remember it, and find our responsibility to have everyone included in this life and to not feel disenfranchised or isolated, and for everyone to be a part of it. And that was his purpose. He took isolation or just maybe a lack of community structure, and he devoted his life to developing a sense of community for himself and all those that he encountered, that pain into purpose, you know. But again, regarding, some of the joy that we have, that could also be a center of our purpose. I've referenced in the past, and this is one of my favorite sayings, Wayne Dyer in the Shift documentary. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend watching the Shift documentary of Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of the most influential teachers of my life, certainly someone who has really just changed thousands of lives, and I am one of the many who has been impacted by him. But within a segment of the Shift, someone was kind of asking about spirituality and God and all these things and how that kind of works, how someone taps into light. And Wayne would say, said in the documentary, you think of the word enthusiasm, which is broken down from the Greek word entheos, which means the God within, the divine spark within. And so when you are enthusiastic or filled with life, you are really tapping into the divine source within, this eternal wellspring of joy, beauty, hope, love within to enhance your life. And so for all of us, it's really about awakening your passion, finding that divine spark within. When you find that spark within, you're able to see it in others. And you don't have to burn incense or be crazy like me and have all these salt lamps, but there's reasons for that, which you could get to another time. But it's really about finding life within life itself and the joy and the things that you're about, and understanding that that's what makes us spiritual, is what we enjoy. You look behind me, you see all these books, but then you'll see all these fragrances. These are things that keep me filled with joy. These are things that I love. And so it's tapping into the things that you love and really making that a part of your life. And that's about, that's really a part of our purpose, is generating joy and hope past some of the pain that life could bring. And that's a transcendence of purpose. That is a miracle. We're shifting, maybe something negative into something beautiful. Or we're able to be a grand note of all these things that make you, you, and embracing that wholeheartedly and sharing that with others. That life is not just about us. It's really about that ripple effect that we give to others. And so I'd like to leave you with this message and this thought, that each and every one of us has a unique purpose. And the more that we're able to connect to it, the more that we could shine. Purpose is not unidimensional, as we are multidimensional. And so we could have many different avenues of really living our purpose. But to me, our purpose is within our light, and finding ways to tap into that and sharing that to others, so that this world is left in a better way because of your existence and your ability to tap into divinity. And that is all a sense of our purpose. But if you're wanting a little bit more about purpose, particularly as it correlates to some of our programming here in the Western world, which is sometimes people look at spirituality with a mindset of capitalism, that the more that you have, the more that you are, the more this, the more that, the more that you are all these things that you're seeking. There's nothing that you need to do in order to be. But a movie that emphasizes this that changed my life is, out of all things, a Pixar movie called Soul, Soul. Highly recommend that particular movie as it speaks to the understanding of purpose. I don't want to give it away, but sometimes the things that we view as small and the presence that we could have in our life is the biggest expression of life itself. I'll leave you with that. Please tune into next week when I bring on someone who has certainly tapped into these same principles. She's able to really transcend her whole life's purpose from an incredible pain and loss of her child. The amazing Elizabeth Boisson, who is a dear friend of mine and who has influenced thousands upon thousands of lives in her work. And she is someone who really is my hand-picked honored guest out of many wonderful lineups, but someone that I certainly admire and have the world of respect, and someone who inspires me and thousands of others each and every day. So please tune in to my next episode with Elizabeth. If you haven't yet, please make sure to click that subscribe button so you get more feature content coming your way, and hit that bell button so you can become notified. Let's continue to celebrate my dad's birthday today and create community here and build something together and really uplift the energy here today. It's a pleasure being with you here today. Thank you so much for opening up your hearts and your minds. Let's stay connected, and please tune into next week's episode with Elizabeth Boisson. You do not want to miss it. Love to all, and thank you. God be with you. Peace.